Welcome back. I am Kate Cherry. I am grateful that you all are with us, and I have my good friend Jeremy Pons here with us today. He is a licensed nutritionist and does all things health and wellness related. I have been working with him for the last 5 years now, and he has done amazing things with our family, getting us on the right path to health and wellness and giving us the tools that we need to really start thriving instead of just surviving. I'm so grateful to come and talk with him today about all things holistic health and how to not get overwhelmed in the process. How do we figure out what we can trust, what we can't trust, all of the things in between, and going from there. So I'm grateful that you guys are here with us today. Thank you so much. And we'll get our conversation started.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, Jeremy, can you tell me, what is holistic health? What does that even mean? It's a big buzzword in today's world. There's a lot of positive, but there's also a lot of negative connotations that go along with it. What is holistic health?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's true, and it does have a lot of connotations, because I think if you look at the bigger picture, most people would agree that holistic health has to do with like the whole person, right? Holistic, and looking at all the aspects of who we are and how we would treat our health from kind of an encapsulating view versus kind of a micromanage or compartmental view. And I think that's a good definition, right? I do believe that holistic health should be viewed as what type of health looks at the whole person. I think the confusion comes in, and the struggle comes in that there's a lot of definitions.
There are.
There's a lot of definitions for it, right? And I think that's probably because the holistic, quote unquote, if you look at the people who would label themselves holistic, that's a huge plethora of people. That's a huge span of people, because it's essentially anyone who says, hey, I've got some nugget to add that'll help your health. But that's a lot of areas. Right. And it can encapsulate everything from sort of the ancient Eastern philosophies of like Chinese medicine, all the way to more probably would be labeled more modern things like Reiki and crystals and energy healing, and then all the way over to things like micro needling and types of massage, and it just there's probably over 100 of them.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and so I think the answer is it's what helps us be healthier as a whole person, but then the bigger answer is, but what does that encapsulate, and what are the things that kind of fall into that category, and how do we navigate it?
Absolutely. So knowing that there's all these different areas that you can traverse into when it comes to holistic health, where does somebody who's in the very beginning, they know they don't feel great, they know they want to make some changes, how do they go about starting just with baby steps?
Yeah, well, I think, in a situation where you're trying to start to make these changes, you want to think about, what is my goal? For most people, that goal is, I want to feel better, live longer, live happier, live a fuller life. But you really can't start with baby steps until you have more specific goals. Okay.
Good call.
And a specific goal means, like, maybe I want to be less tight, so my muscles are tight. So what are some things I can do to help make my muscles become less tight? That's part of that holistic picture. And there's everything from the medical, let's give you a muscle relaxer, down to let's go to a physical therapist, or let's go to a chiropractor, or let's go to a massage therapist, or let's do micro needling, or let's do cupping, or and it just goes on down the list, and there's a lot of them. So even in the little goals, there's a lot of options. And so I think the first step in not getting overwhelmed is to look at what are some goals specifically I want to work on, and then how can I do that? Because I think the next question, I would be thinking is, yeah, but how do I not get overwhelmed? Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a little more
like all the choices.
Like, that's how we get into the weeds a little bit.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So, I think the number one thing that I see happening is is people get overwhelmed because we want to do it all, right? We want to do everything, and oftentimes do everything at once.
Yes.
It's just kind of the human tendency is we want to just fix it, and let's fix it by every means necessary.
Absolutely.
Right. And so it can be very tempting to just jump into the deep end and do multiple things at once. And go, okay, I'm gonna have this practitioner and this person and this person and this person. I'm gonna fix all the things.
Right.
And what generally happens in that situation is sort of two things. One is I'm completely overwhelmed in general because I've got too much going on. And then the second thing that happens related to that is you start maybe feeling better and you go, oh, I don't know what's helping me.
Exactly.
I'm doing 10 things.
You change so many things at the same time.
Right.
Right.
So, so I kind of, that's one of the things that I help people navigate is like, where should I start? And how do we measure change? And, what does that look like?
Sure. So it sounds like it's really important to nail down what are your intended goals. And that can be for yourself. That can be for kids. That can be for a family member, a friend, whatever. And then once you know where you are, like where you're starting, where you want to go, then that's how you figure out the steps you need to take to get there.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I'm someone who, let's say I have a lot of fatigue and I just know that I want to have more energy and do all of those things, what would be like a first step practice? Like, where would I even know to go with all the choices that you mentioned? Like, I could go to a chiropractor. Maybe I'm not aligned right. Maybe I need to eat better because my nutrition level's not right. Maybe I need to work on sleep. Maybe I need to work on my vitamin deficiency. Like, there's 1,000 different areas, and maybe it's all of those things.
Yeah.
But how do I know where to begin?
Right.
So that I start just tweaking one small thing at a time.
Right.
Waiting a period of time, and then adding other things as we go.
That's a good question. I think that in order to really navigate something in a holistic manner, you really need to establish a framework of what the holistic parts of yourself really are.
Okay, fair.
Because if you don't do that, it's almost like you're just playing whack-a-mole and just randomly pushing buttons, on a screen to go, okay, let's try that thing. Let's see if that helps. Let's try this thing. Let's see if that helps. And then you may or may not even know, number one, whether it's helping, or number two, in what framework it's helping. And so kind of going back to our session where we were talking about what is nutrition, to me, if we're going to look at holistic health, we need to have a framework of who we are as a whole.
Got it.
And if we can understand that, then we can start to navigate in those areas. And so I would argue, as a believer, that we have a body, that we have a mind with will and emotions and all those things that come with that, which is your personality and all those pieces of you, and that you have a spirit and that you're a 3-part person.
Got it.
And in that framework, that holistic part means that there are areas where you need to be focusing on the body function of the physical world. There's a framework where you need to be focusing in the mind, and that's the place of changing your attitudes and your mindsets and the things you believe, and kind of getting a framework of knowledge and understanding. And then kind of overlapping, or kind of those things tend to kind of meld together. Spiritually, you need to have a framework of what do you believe? What is your worldview? What is sort of the foundation that you stand on to read and interpret the world around you?
Got it.
Because that foundation is going to dictate where you go to get solutions, but also how you interact with the world around you and react to the world around you.
That makes sense.
And if you're not looking at all three of those areas, then you can get really confused on where to really have an impact.
Right.
And so when you do that, you create that framework, then you want to look at, let's say we are talking about fatigue. I think the very first thing you should do in any holistic plan is to really sit back and do some self-assessment. That's the number one thing a lot of us don't do.
Right.
Now, there is a time and a place where you may sit down and you go, I'm so scattered and crazy, I don't even know how to assess myself.
Sure.
Right. And that's what counseling is for. So sitting down with a counselor of some kind to actually do some self-assessment may be really, really helpful. And And if it's in the physical realm, it might be a nutrition counselor, which is what I am, right?
Mhm.
Nutrition counseling is what we do.
Mhm.
In the emotional, spiritual side, it would be a legitimate counselor, right? Where who can do that. But either way, you're doing a self-assessment. And so I'll take the fatigue example as an option there. I would sit down and I would first go, okay, I'm tired a lot. Let's start with the basics.
Mhm.
Why would I be tired?
Mhm.
And then, like you said, check off, am I sleeping at night?
Right.
How many hours am I sleeping?
Mhm.
Do I really feel like I sleep well at night?
Mhm.
Do and answer those questions. Are there things that wake me up in the night?
Mhm.
Either physically I have to get up and go to the bathroom or something else, or emotionally I'm waking up thinking about things. Things are on my mind,
Right.
or I can't go to sleep at night because my thoughts are racing.
Mhm.
Okay, and you start to look at those and you go, okay, assessing myself, I'm realizing, man, I'm not getting enough hours, and also my thoughts are racing before I go to bed.
Mhm.
That's two areas. We're looking at physically, the hours of your sleep are not good.
Right.
And emotionally, there's something going on in your heart and your mind that is affecting you being able to sleep.
That makes sense.
That, when you look at a holistic picture, it sounds so simple,
Mhm.
but ultimately you should always start with the simple first. And one of the biggest things I've learned as a holistic provider is often the biggest answers are the simplest answers.
Got it.
So someone will come and say, man, I just feel tired all day long. And I start to talk to them about their eating, and they're like, well, yeah, I might get a coffee in the morning. I eat lunch maybe 2 days a week. I might grab a couple snacks, and then I'll maybe try to get dinner at night. And I'm raising my hand going, do you feel like you're getting fuel?
Mm.
Right? So you're tired because you didn't do the basics of putting food in your body.
Got it.
Right? Or lots of teenagers tell me this. I'm exhausted and tired all day long until I
Right.
get home from school.
Right.
And I ask them, how much water did you drink? Oh, well, I didn't drink any water until I got home. So
Hydration
you had
is
zero
huge.
water
Yes.
from the time you got up to the time you went home at 3
Right.
o'clock.
Right.
That's a massive cause of fatigue, but it's the simplest.
Right.
Right.
So how much water should we be drinking every day?
Good question.
Does that depend on the person, I suppose?
It does. It does. But there are some parameters. And essentially, you would want to do about, for most people, and little kids are a little bit different, but for most people, say like age 13 and older, you want about half your weight in ounces as a good
Boy, that's a lot.
reference rate.
That's a lot.
It can be for some people. It can be. And then if you're sweating, you want more.
That makes sense,
Right.
because you're depleting what you're putting in.
Right. And so like I always encourage people, which this one doesn't, but I have some that have markers on them,
Mhm.
but to get a bottle with markers. I just happen to know that a liter is 40 ounces.
Gotcha.
So 40 ounces, that means for me, I need 2 a day of these.
Wow.
Right. And so that's kind of my reference range. And I know feeling wise, I will feel it, like mentally, fatigue wise, if I don't get enough water in a day.
That's fascinating. I don't think we think about that enough. Like, we think, oh, water's all around us. We can get a drink, a glass, whatever,
Right.
whenever we want
Right.
it. But
Yeah.
you're right. I mean, there's so many who don't, including myself, who I just don't feel like I drink enough.
Yes. And so I think if we go back to that question of holistic health, what's often the case is we try to focus in on one area and only go there.
Right.
Okay. Well, I feel fatigued. Man, I must not be, I don't know, getting good sleep at night. And I didn't look at anything else. And so
Right.
now I'm going to look at maybe some sleep supplements, or I'm going to look at getting a massage, or whatever that thing is that I think is going to help me. But the first step in a holistic plan is to look at the whole of your day and your routines and your body and all those pieces, and go, what are the basic things, and am I doing them or am I missing?
Wow. Yeah. That's insightful. That's really insightful. I think it can be so easy to fall, especially in this age of social media, where we have all of these different trends and all of these different things that are thrown at us all the time, of saying, oh, well, this will fix that, and this will fix this, and whatever. We're like, oh, well, let me just try that and see if it'll work.
Right.
But you're so right. Like, maybe it would help. Maybe it would help for a little bit. Maybe it wouldn't.
Right.
But if you're not looking at the whole picture, again, the whole idea of holistic,
right,
you're not looking at the whole picture, you could be missing some critical pieces. So it sounds like it's really important to find someone who can help walk you through these ideas of looking at each aspect of your life, and if you're either falling short on some things, or if you're doing them really well, so that you're not going down random rabbit holes trying to chase things that may or may not end up helping in the end.
Right. And one of the things that we do in a holistic, in our therapy and nutrition visits is when I do an assessment on somebody, the assessment itself is a holistic assessment. In other words, I have, and some people think it's great and other people think it's a terrible chore, but like I have a really long, long intake, and I do it for a reason. Right. Because I want to cue a person to ask questions they might not have asked in a long time. Like, how often do you get out of your chair and go for a walk during your workday? How much water are you drinking? Rate your stress on 1 to 10. How many hours of sleep do you get? Do you feel rested when you wake up? When do you eat? Do you eat? Do you skip meals? We have all these long lists of things, because the first answer to having holistic therapy and care for somebody is having a holistic view of what's actually going on.
Right.
And if we can do that, then oftentimes we can have some very meaningful solutions very quickly that will make a big difference without being something dramatic and big and like, you need to go start seeing this, other practitioner every week for the next 3 months to try to have this.
Which can feel
impact.
daunting.
Right, exactly. A lot of things can feel daunting. And I want to take the daunting part out of it.
That's key.
That's a real key to it.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like too, like if you take that daunting overwhelm out of it, then you're more apt to stay to something. Because I know for me, like, and I don't know if a lot of you all feel like this too, but I know for me, I am definitely a person that if I have too many things I have to do, or if the task seems insurmountable, I won't do it. I'll just say, that sounds nice and it's a good theory, and maybe you're even telling me to do it, but I'll just kind of not do it.
Yes.
Because it's easier to not do it than it is to try to dive in and do it all right and feel like I'm trying to perfect it and all of that. So when you are talking with your patients and figuring out this whole plan of attack, depending on what their goals are, depending on what their holistic self is, what do you typically start with first? And does that plan, I guess, tell me if it individualizes for each person you work with, depending on what they need, or if you have like a basis that you tend to start with?
Yeah. A little of both.
Okay.
Yeah. But when we're starting, I always start with the basics. And there's differing lists depending on who you talk to or what you would look at. But the basics are going to be rest/sleep, fresh air, sunshine, movement, food, water, and I would say the emotional, attachment, community, and those sorts of things. And those 7 areas encompass the parts of a person's daily life that would create a holistic lifestyle.
I love that.
Okay. And I start with often the basics first, like eating and drinking.
Sure. Right? Sure.
Because as crazy as it is to say this, our society is really geared towards skipping the basic parts of life.
Yeah.
Right. We're so accustomed to all our routines that oftentimes just simply going and drinking water is forgotten. And part of that is the culture and how fast it runs. Part of it is the way we run our lives, and that we're often in air-conditioned spaces, sitting at desks or things like that, where we kind of get disconnected from the signals that we would have otherwise.
Right.
100% of people I talk to will agree with me that even the ones who don't really feel thirsty, if they go outside and sweat and come back in, they'll feel thirsty, right? Because that's the natural body signal that your body is designed to listen to.
Right.
And so oftentimes the 3-part of movement, water, and food kind of go together, and then that begins to feed into other things like emotions and sleep and rest.
Sure.
Okay. But those basic things, are you eating properly, and are you drinking water, and are you getting some movement? Then we move into the more details. And the biggest misnomer in all of nutrition and wellness is that what you're after is information.
Exactly.
And that's not true.
Yeah.
In fact, the second biggest misnomer people think of is that what you're after is education. And that's also not true.
Okay.
What you're actually after is modification. as in behavior modification.
Yeah, and
And transforming, right?
Yeah. That
Okay,
makes so much sense.
transformation, right? Transformation is what you're really after.
Yeah.
And transformation does not come from information and education. It comes
Right.
from actually doing the work
Exactly.
and following through on it.
Yeah.
9 out of 10 people, I think that the stats are the average person who goes on a diet of any kind of diet, lasts 5 days,
Wow.
right?
That's shorter than I would have thought.
Yeah, 5 days. Some people will stick it out 2 weeks.
Wow.
But almost everyone will quit a diet within 5 to 14 days and go, yeah, I tried that diet. It didn't work for me. Well, that's true, because the education and the information is not appropriate or not enough.
Right.
If that was enough, anybody can now get on ChatGPT
Oh, definitely.
and get all the information you'll ever need the rest of your life.
Yep.
It's all there.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay. So what we really do is about counseling
Mm-hmm.
and behavior modification to create transformation by creating new lifestyle rhythms.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that takes time. And what is the most overwhelming to people when looking at a holistic view is they're going, I don't know where to start. Like, help me start somewhere.
Right.
And so I usually start with the very simple things that are basic to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And then we start to move into the individualized things.
That
where
makes sense.
one person may go, yeah, like I'm eating great and I'm drinking well, but I just feel terrible all the time. And you find out, well, they're never moving, they're never getting up and exercising.
Yeah.
Right. So we work on exercise.
Yeah.
Or maybe this person's exercising like crazy and they're in the gym all the time. Then you find out they're getting 4 hours of sleep a night.
Right.
And they're not getting enough rest.
Right.
So we work in that area.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's different areas of life that in all of us, if we're being honest, I'd say 2% of people walking around are balanced. Okay.
Gosh, just 2.
Probably, if I'm being generous.
Yeah.
Okay. Because most of us are imbalanced in some area of we're either too stressed, not enough sleep, not eating the right foods, not drinking enough, not exercising enough.
Right.
Whatever.
So talking about being overwhelmed and having these small steps and knowing what to do next. I know you mentioned something about going to ChatGPT, and you could have every answer in the entire world that you would ever want.
Right.
But then you were also talking about how we need to look at individual people who can come alongside of us and help us along our way. Can you expand on that just a little bit?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's just this. There's a difference in knowledge and understanding. ChatGPT will give you plenty of knowledge, but it doesn't necessarily have any understanding. It only regurgitates what other people have said. Right. That's how AI works. Right. And so AI can be super intelligent, or it can be super dumb, depending on what sources of information it pulled from.
Right.
And one of the crucial things that someone with expertise is supposed to do is to vet information.
I love that.
And so you take information and you look at it and you run it through a lens. The lens being your knowledge, your understanding, your experience, your education, your wisdom of like what you've seen work, and all of those things become a lens of expertise to go, okay, yeah, that information is really good. This information, not so much.
Right.
And to be able to help communicate that to people who need it. And so when I talked earlier about the idea that, we're not really after information or education, or we're really after transformation, it's true. Now, but the information and education help get you there.
Of course.
But it needs to be good information, and it needs to be legitimate and valid education.
Right.
And so the wrong education is worse than no education at all. Right. It's better to be ignorant than to be informed in the wrong direction. And we see that all over life, including politics and everything else. Right. You can be informed in the wrong direction and be legitimately trying to accomplish something that's very negative. And because you were educated wrongly. And so when it comes to healthcare then and holistic stuff, you need to have a lens of reality and truth, and be able to use that to actually review and vet information coming at you. And so when we look at and I know this is going to be controversial for some people, but I would argue that truth is true regardless of whether you think it is. Okay, right? Truth is absolute because otherwise it wouldn't be true. The definition of truth is that which exists in reality, that which is.
Yeah.
That's truth.
Yeah.
And so science in its purest form is actually trying to get at truth because it's trying to understand how does reality work.
Right.
Right. We have a world, we have an environment, we want to know how it works around us. And so science, you make an observation, then you interpret that observation, then you try to test hypothesis about the thing you observed.
Right.
And then you try to see if there are weaknesses in that hypothesis by testing it through the scientific theory. And then when you've tested and tried it, you try, if you have a result that confirms your hypothesis, you repeat it multiple times.
Right.
That's the scientific method in a nutshell. So you take something, you review it, you repeat it, you test it, and then when you're all said and done, you're never done, but you have a building body of knowledge to go, okay, we have figured out that, over X amount of decades of research that vitamin C is an essential nutrient to the human body and it must be gotten. And it must be gotten from the diet because we have all this experience of these hundreds of years plus the research to show that the body can become deficient and then it gets this disease condition called scurvy. And then when you supplement this nutrient called vitamin C, it heals it. And then the human body functions, right?
Right.
So that's a very simple example of how nutrition research works. And you try to do this with multiple areas, but when we get it down to what's available right now to the average person, it's thousands of times more information than that.
Yeah.
And you're trying to sort through not only a mountain of information, but a mountain of conflicting information and a mountain of misinformation. And so our goal as an expert person is we try to guide people towards what is true and real, what is hopefully scientific, to the best that we understand it, and not everything can be measured.
Yeah,
right? And so in the holistic world, you kind of get into this world of a combination of we see some emergent research here, and I'll take acupuncture, right? Acupuncture has been proven without a doubt throughout a lot of research to reduce pain. Okay, so that part is proven. Now there's 100 other things that people have made claims about acupuncture that can't be proven. Experientially, they'll see benefits, but it can't be proven because it's hard to measure.
Right.
And so it doesn't mean it's a bad modality. It just means it should be done in an educated way with an informed opinion that this could help this, but there's really no data to back it up. And so it's kind of buyer beware on a lot of things in the holistic world. As an expert, our goal is to vet things and look at someone's situation and go, in your situation, these are the things we know are going to kind of move the needle on the basics. Rest and fresh air and sunshine and food and water and nutrients and those kind of things. We know that it's going to help, but then in your specific situation, maybe there's this little area here, and I'll take neuropathy as one, right? We deal with people who have neuropathy from chemotherapy or diabetes and other things. In that situation, some people have found benefit from things like acupuncture.
Right.
And we'll go, why don't you go try this out for about 3 months and let's see if you see an improvement or some difference. And that's an example of a vetted holistic therapy that is input into that one situation in a way that we hope is going to be beneficial.
Right.
And same thing applies with like certain supplements. There are supplements that are on the cutting edge. And I'll give you an example you're going to hear a lot more about. It's a particular probiotic called Akkermansia. It's all the rage on social media.
Heard about it.
Okay, right. People are talking about it being able to modify your microbiome when it comes to inflammation and maybe weight management and appetite and all this kind of stuff. I would say that research is preliminary.
Okay.
We don't have a lot to go on yet. What we do have to go on looks good, looks promising, but it would be in the realm of what's called cutting edge on the holistic side of gut health.
Okay.
It does have some science to back it up and some theory, but it would be not be considered something that's been fully tested.
That's fair.
Okay. There's a ton of things like that in the holistic world. And so what I do as a practitioner is I try to vet that to the best of my reasoning and expertise and education to look at it and go, that makes sense. Number one, it would have to make sense. Number two, does it do any harm?
Right.
Number three, does it harm in another way, as in it's a waste of money? And number four, is it promising enough that I feel like it's worth looking at? And if that's the case, then I will then recommend some of these things that could help a person along the way. And then I would just have to say, as a practitioner who is a believer, I overlap that with a lens of truth based in biblical knowledge of, is this based in something that would make sense from that viewpoint? and is it doing harm or not doing harm in another way? And not this be another topic for another time, but there are a lot of things in the holistic world that overlap in a way that would be, I would say, potentially harmful for a believer on an emotional, spiritual sense that can get into occult and other practices.
Got it.
Those are areas where I would not feel comfortable recommending certain things to people.
Sure.
And so those are things that, again, we talked about this earlier, discernment is required, which is a level of knowing that goes beyond knowledge, and that's something that you can't quantify.
Exactly.
Right? Science does not quantify.
ChatGPT cannot do
Right.
that for you.
Yeah, science and ChatGPT cannot quantify discernment.
Yeah.
But I think all of us who are reasonable human beings can look around and go, there's absolutely this thing called discernment.
Right.
And intuition.
Right.
And they're real things.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't ignore them.
Right.
Because it's something inside of you that can give you an understanding that says, no, I don't think that's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, sometimes you may come back and go, okay, there's a reason for that. Right. We just didn't know it back then.
Exactly.
And not to get on a rabbit trail too much, but like it was 4,000, I believe, about 4,000 years, roughly, that Jewish people circumcised their children on the 8th day before science figured out why it was the best. Right. That we knew nothing about the science of clotting in the human body until about 100 years ago.
Wow.
Right. And yet that practice was instituted 4,000 years ago and just so happened to be the best practice possible. To do the 8th day where the clotting is the best. Science proves it. It's a thing. It's been documented. It's been proven at this point. Back then they did it based on trust in a higher source of wisdom. And now we've confirmed that higher source of wisdom, but things still exist that we cannot yet explain, that if we can trust a higher source of wisdom, we'll have a better framework for what to do in holistic healthcare than what science knows right now. Mm-hmm. Because what science knows now will change again in 20 years.
That's so true.
And that's the biggest thing that as a provider of healthcare, I want to always, always keep at the forefront of my lens. Mm-hmm. Is that what I think may be the quote unquote be all to end all thing now may be good, but in 20 years it may be outdated, it may be proved wrong, it may be considered that not the best way to do something. Mm-hmm. And if in science and in healthcare you can't have some humility, you should not be in healthcare. Because you have to have humility to understand that I don't know it all.
Yep.
And I need to inform and advise and care for people.
Mm-hmm. And constantly be learning.
And help people to make that framework and help them navigate that lens. Mm-hmm. And help them vet things, but always understand that we don't know it all.
Exactly.
And we're still learning.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, and that's why I have appreciated your approach so much with my own case, because when I first started this journey with my son and his health and all the things that came with that, I didn't know where to start. I knew where I wanted to go. I had a goal in mind, which is one of the things that you said you needed to address first. Figuring out what you want to do and then figuring out the baby steps to get there. That would help to my overwhelm, because I was like, I don't even know. But when I came to you and I was asking about all of these different things, what I appreciated was that you helped me navigate a world that I loosely knew about, but I didn't know enough about to feel like I was doing it safely. Mm-hmm. And so there's a whole lot of things out there, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of things that are backed by science. There are things that are not backed by science. But then there's that gray area in between of maybe it's not proven.
Right. But it may be.
But it may be, and it may be in 10 years, but it's really effective.
Right.
So how do you know, like, which piece to use when or where that's not going to be harmful or a waste of money or a waste of time, but actually benefit us in general and move the needle forward to ultimately getting to the goal that you want to go to. So for that, I'm very grateful and appreciative that I could have like those steps in place to feel like we were able to go on our own path to figure out some of these remedies or needs to fix the ailments that my child was going through. I mean, the fact that we've been able to get rid of so many crazy health symptoms has been amazing, and
Yeah,
I'm
it's
grateful for
awesome.
that.
Yeah, well,
But
it's been a great, and it's a journey, right? It's always a journey, both for you guys as the patients, but it's a journey for us as providers because
yeah,
the thing about it that sometimes people talk about and sometimes people don't is that our clients and patients are also our best teachers
hmm
because we're always learning something with this person that helps us better the next time.
yep,
And I always want to um, again keep an open mind and keep an inquisitive mind
hmm
and a scientific mind, observe and test and repeat, and always do that process all the
right,
time,
right,
because that's what actually defines what cutting edge clinical practice is,
hmm
and that's something that is missed. And we have in this modern world a weird world where we've kind of got almost feel like religious camps on in the public, where you've got the camp of I would call it trust the science camp, which is a little bit deceptive. And you've got the science denier camp, which is also a little bit deceptive. But
hmm
what is true about those two sides is they're on opposite ends, where this side says, oh no, that science is junk. I don't like it. We can't trust it. Let's just throw it away because after all, it got us to these terrible health outcomes. Therefore, it can't be right.
yeah.
That's not accurate.
No, I don't think so either.
Then on the other side, you've got this trust the science camp where they've actually made science their religion, and it's become tenets of a religion, and it's become defending something like dogma,
Yeah,
and always and defending the thing that quote unquote is the tested or trusted or proven science, not realizing that there's no such thing.
yep,
That science is always evolving. You can't make a religion on something that's a moving target. It has to be a foundation that doesn't move.
yep.
And in between those two is the world where clinicians have always lived, which is they stay on the cutting edge of what's been quote unquote proven, and then behind the part that's completely unproven, and they're the proving ground.
hmm
But clinical expertise has always been the proving ground. And if you look at things as far back as vitamins and minerals and vitamin D and treatment for beriberi and all the things that we think about with nutritional diseases, right in the middle between research and the public were the clinicians testing the things that had not been proven, and
right,
and then saying to the researchers, hey, look at this area and research it.
hmm
And then the researchers took it and created a big body of knowledge behind it. And there's always this ground where, from one of my professors, I don't know if this is everyone, but she said that there's actually, most of the time, 15-ish years between the theoretical and then putting it into clinical practice, and then oftentimes another 10 to 15 years
wow,
before that theoretical clinical gets stuck into public health policy as a result of research done.
that
So
makes
there's
sense.
often a
Yep.
20-plus-year gap between things that work and things that are grounded in public policy later because they've been sort of proven
Right.
to work. And that process, because it takes time, the public kind of feels floundering a lot
That
of
makes
times.
sense. Yep.
And the clinicians often feel ostracized
hmm
because you've got, if you're doing cutting edge stuff, then part of the people are saying, well, you're not in science. That's not true.
No,
You're actually testing the science in real time
I love that perspective. Yes.
so that the researchers can go prove
Yes.
it better later with double blind studies and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so as a clinician, your goal is to be scientific about your testing, do no harm, make it reality based, and make sure you're doing something with benefit. And then oftentimes if things don't work, I'm just like, nope, throw that in the dustbin, do something else.
Exactly.
Right. It doesn't mean I'm not scientific.
Correct.
Right. It doesn't mean it's
Correct.
not evidence based. It
Yep.
means it's on the cutting edge of evidence,
Mhm.
so that people behind you can gather more and keep going.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, that's so great. So, as three takeaways for parents who are
Mm.
navigating this whole thing of not being overwhelmed,
Mm-hmm.
starting with baby steps, what would you give them as just ground rules to live by regarding our
Mm.
conversation today?
I think first thing is understanding what is the holistic framework,
Mhm.
and what you're actually trying to have an intervention
And what
in.
you're trying to accomplish.
Yes, the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, or some combination of that. Then looking at the very, very basics
The basics.
first.
Yep.
Always look at the basics first, and start with those things, because the nicest thing is the basics are always free.
Mhm.
Fresh air is free. Sunshine is free.
Yeah.
Water is most of the time free, right? Food is kind of a given. It's not free, but it, like very few people, thankfully, are without it. And start with doing the basics. Resting is free, and do those rhythms and work on those rhythms one at a time. And then what's left, then get some expertise maybe in navigating the specific individual difficulties of what you're dealing with, and get some help on making those changes. And then think about getting past the information, past the education, to plug in and get help from someone who's going to coach you through the transformation.
I love that.
So that you're able to do those steps one at a time, and you're not floundering and you're not lost. They're able to help vet, and then you actually end up with some tangible results.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah,
oh my gosh,
absolutely.
that's so
happy
great.
This is a good talk.
Absolutely, it is. Well, I just appreciate your insight and expertise into that, and just how you have navigated it with so many patients over the years of your practice, and how you've taken our family on that journey as well. And I'm grateful for that.
Help. Yeah,
very, very grateful.
Good.
So if you feel like someone could benefit from the information that we shared here today, please share this episode with them. Feel free to like it, share it, become a subscriber. We would love to continue to give you these helpful pieces of wisdom, these tips, these ideas, things to improve your life and your livelihood. Again, feel free to follow us. Hope to see you next time. And until then.
Yeah, great.
Thanks so much.